So I'm sure most of you have heard the news about COD 2023 being an actual standalone game now and not an extension of Modern Warfare 2 like Activision previously stated and that Infinity Ward was kind of saying as well. For better or for worse, this is probably what's going down. We're going to have an actual Call of Duty 2023 full-on separate title release. Now, they say this is primarily developed by Sledgehammer Games, but of course, a lot of that content is already what Infinity Ward worked on for the second year of Modern Warfare 2. But this whole situation, I'm sure, has left a lot of people really confused. So I want to clear up the air. I want to give you guys a very straightforward way of understanding what's going on with Call of Duty and why the direction is changing so heavily. Call of Duty 2023 will not be Modern Warfare 3. I see a lot of people propagating that, but there is almost zero chance that that is the case for a couple of reasons. First, and probably the biggest reason, is that Infinity Ward's next game in 2025 will most likely be Modern Warfare 3, meaning this game in between we get right now before Treyarch's next game is going to be, it almost feels like a spin-off or a filler game. And I know that sounds weird, but I'll explain that. But before we go any further, I do want to thank the sponsor of this video. Today's sponsor is Manscaped, the first-class and top-of-the-line brand when it comes to men's grooming, and not just for the sinister regions. They have regular facial hair products as well. Fellas, I know how it is trying to maintain the situation, and I know you're all gamers too, which makes that problem even worse. I might just have the solution for you. Manscaped is offering the Performance Package 4.0 with all the optimal tools for the job. You'll find the lawnmower trimmer, ear and nose hair trimmer, crop preserver, and so on. The thing is waterproof, meaning you won't have to ruin your bathroom floor. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You also get a travel carrying bag with it, so the quality and convenience is just unbeatable. Lads, honestly, it's time to break the stereotype of gamers having terrible hygiene and grooming habits. We gotta start taking good care of ourselves. You can get started with this package for 20% off and free shipping using the code CHOPPER at manscaped.com. Remember, that's not an O, it's a 0 for the 0 ladies that you'll sure to be getting if you don't start on Manscaped today. And thank you so much to them for sponsoring this video. All right, let me catch everybody up real quick just in case you weren't aware. Tom Henderson tweeted last month, essentially breaking the news that Activision was going back on their word and being like, hey, we actually are going to release a Call of Duty game in 2023. This was supposed to be their break year coming up, right? We were just going to have a premium expansion, as they called it, for Modern Warfare 2, a second year of support, if you will. And why the sudden change to now they're releasing this full-on title that they claim is allegedly developed by Sledgehammer Games, but realistically, it's probably some of Infinity Ward's work, a little bit of Sledgehammer's influence, and probably even Treyarch too. All of this information has also been corroborated by a bunch of other industry insiders that are claiming, yeah, Call of Duty is going to have an actual release this year, and it is not going to be Modern Warfare 3, because once again, that's going to be Infinity Ward's next big title, most likely in 2025. So what is this COD 2023 going to be? In all likelihood, this is going to be some kind of Modern Warfare spin-off or a backstory probably to one of the characters, maybe Ghost, I can assume. For campaign, a lot of it will most likely be either wrapping up the Makarov storyline that they kind of set up at the end of the campaign, or the Shepard stuff, because they still have to do that. And when it comes to multiplayer, and I think this is where we can assume this is why a lot of the post-launch content for this year's COD has been kind of underwhelming, because they are essentially scrapping it and using it for this new game. But the weird thing is, you guys know how, the second year of this game was supposed to be a bunch of legacy maps from older Call of Duty games that were going to be put into MW2, and, this was going to be like a $70 premium expansion or something like that, most likely. So it's not like Activision is actually making really any more money, literally from repackaging this, because it was going to be sold for the same price anyways. They're just putting it under a new game. But I have to wonder why. A lot has gone down, even within the past week, in regards to the Call of Duty or the Activision and Microsoft acquisition deal, and Activision's relationship with Sony is being slightly strained at the moment. So there is a lot up in the air, and there's a lot of metagame at play in terms of what Call of Duty is actually going to exclusively be on, how it's going to move going forward, and even if this Microsoft acquisition is even going to go through at all. Honestly, right now, all signs point to that it probably won't. And the existence of this new Call of Duty game that's coming out this year, which allegedly is already going to have a beta and early access in October of this year, this means that year 2 for Treyarch's game in 2024 will most likely not have 2 years of support as well. It seems like they're ditching that whole model, when the entire reason they were doing this for Modern Warfare 2 was to essentially set a new precedent for COD, where, they release maybe every 2 years instead of annually, and then they support that title for 2 years. years. I really don't understand why they are walking back this idea. And, it's not like they are essentially re-upping their entire content plan. They're just packaging it differently and putting it under a brand new game. To some of you, that's probably new information, but a lot of stuff, you guys have heard before. But here's where it gets really spicy, and we don't have any info if Call of Duty is actually going this direction, but there seems to be a shift occurring right now in the gaming industry at large, and more specifically, even in the Call of Duty community. So this is the debate between live service games and things with paid DLC or premium expansions or updates. And this is relevant because the content that was going to be added to MW2 originally was going to be touted as just, a $70 premium expansion with, content to back that up. But this brings into question the entire concept of paid DLC versus live service. And I think the sentiment is heavily shifting. I ran a poll on Twitter the other day asking you guys your thoughts about paid DLC expansion packs versus live service model, and you can see that it's, DLC did come out on top, but it's pretty even. Like, this is a very, political, split down the middle sort of subject right now, and for good reason. It's heavily debated, and it's very complicated. As an intellectual challenge, I encourage you to try to understand, regardless of what side of this debate you fall on, to try to understand the other side of the argument. So let me lay them out really quickly. And this is very important because we are now seeing major AAA video games literally get delayed because of backlash about the live service model. As soon as this game, announced that it was going to be a live service standard, people got very upset, and it looks like they're actually delaying the game as a result of this backlash and probably restructuring some things. This is huge because this will have massive implications on other games that will likely follow suit if they get the same backlash. So let me lay out what I think are the advantages and drawbacks to each content delivery method, and I would love to know your guys' thoughts too. But in favor of live service, I would say the strongest case that it has is the fact that it keeps players together, right? One of the worst things about DLC packs from back then, whether it's COD or even like Halo or anything like that, it split players up. And so if your friends did not own that map pack or whatever it was, you literally could not play with them. It was one of those things where people were getting left out of things, and you'd have to split your friend group up, and that is never a good thing. And also, after a certain time, it makes that DLC content, depending on what it is, almost unplayable. If you go and back play any older Call of Duty game on an older console, you'll be able to find games in the vanilla Team Deathmatch base map playlist, but DLC playlists are always dead. You are virtually never able to find these, or at least not consistently. So of course there's exceptions here and there, but in general, you know what I mean. DLC playlists basically have an expiration date, and they die after a while because most people who are playing these older Call of Duty games just simply don't have the DLC, and that's just how it is. Live service fixes this, keeps players always together regardless of how many maps or whatever content comes out. Players, every single one, is able to engage with that new content, which is an excellent thing. However, there is a drawback to live service, and that is generally the fact that when you do get content releases, it's more like dollar store content. And I'm not even saying that, paying for maps necessarily equates to a higher quality product. We'll get to that in a second, but you know what I mean, right? And the biggest problem with live service is the fact that across seasons or across updates, there is no minimum standard for content. So when you compare that to DLC, for example, for Call of Duty, we would generally get 4 multiplayer maps and a zombies map. That was, typically the formula that was guaranteed to happen. In the service model of Call of Duty, it's for season 1, you might get some excellent stuff. You might get tons of multiplayer maps and all this, brand new weapons and whatnot. And then for season 2, what we just got for MW2, it's embarrassing. It was 2 not even brand new multiplayer maps, and that's essentially it. It was just a big nothing burger. I think by far the biggest drawback to live service is the fact that there is no minimum standard amount or quality of content that needs to be delivered. It can be extremely high one season and extremely low the next season with no rhyme or reason in between. And it's not even quality of content, it's also just volume, right? Because even when we paid for DLC, there was some horrible map packs. Not all of them were just absolute slappers by nature, and you did pay for some garbage back in the day, which is not a good thing either, but it's there is no minimum requirement of what at at least needs to be the bare minimum. Also, I do want to point out, I've not seen Activision's balance sheet or anything, but I suspect that if paid DLC was still more profitable than live service, they would still be doing paid DLC. I have a sneaking suspicion that live service, even though, stuff is free, let's say, that content is free, I still think that at the end of the day, Activision makes more money. Now, the strongest case for paid DLC is the fact that, number one, yes, there is that minimum required standard of content that has to be delivered. And I want to make a very key distinction here. And there is some incentive for Activision to make map packs that sell well because they make more money. It's not like developers themselves are getting paid more whether they're doing live service or DLC. That doesn't matter a whole lot. So it's not it's not as simple as paying for content, i.e. makes it better. But I do think there's a little bit of truth in that, where as far as you either have that or you have the incentive to make dollar store content essentially. And that's what Call of Duty has more or less been for the past couple of years is yeah, we get some really cool expansions and map packs and everything, or maps, let's say, but a lot of the content that's additional to it is just dollar store content. And that's fine if that's their business model. But I think people are kind of getting sick of it and are almost wanting to go back to maybe lower amounts of volume of content, but much higher quality. But again, the problem is you're paying for this content and it's splitting players up. But let me put it to you like this, and this is super important. I don't think anybody on planet Earth would have a problem with live service if every single season we were getting the equivalent of a paid map pack in terms of volume and quality. If we were getting stuff that we would get in, let's say, DLC packs, but for free as live service, nobody would be complaining. But the fact is we're not, and we're getting, more or less dollar store content that's all over the place from season to season. Clearly, there's some kind of disconnect going on, and I don't know exactly why that is or what to do about it, but that is the problem as it is laid out. And the way this is related to COD 2023, I was worried that, this is just going to be like a filler game for them. I don't know really what their purpose in dropping this as a standard title is, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's no information that they are going to do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they experimented around for this title with the DLC premium map pack model again. I actually wouldn't be surprised, or some kind of hybrid of that. They tried the Black Ops Pass years ago. This was supposed to be the, marrying of live service and DLC, and that was an absolute disaster failure. So maybe they learned from the Black Ops Pass and do something better. I don't know. But I think COD 2023 has a lot to live up to. So yeah, we have an actual Call of Duty game coming out this year, which again is most likely a Modern Warfare spinoff, going to be very similar feeling to MW2, I would assume, probably with a few differences here and there. But it seems like a Call of Duty filler game unless they do something experimental with it, which I think they have an opportunity to maybe try out the DLC model once again, or a slight variation of it. I don't think they have that much to lose, because this game wasn't even supposed to exist anyways. So if the industry is shifting in a way where maybe paid DLC is the way to go again, maybe they can be ahead of the curve on this. I don't know. I suppose we'll have to see. I'd love to know your thoughts on this down below. Hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, drop a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.